Welcome back to National Agriculture Day. We are coming to you live from Martin Place in Sydney, and you've just heard from our other moderator in Melbourne, the lovely Rachel McCann. If you are lucky enough to be with us here in Sydney today, we actually have some fantastic things to get involved with, namely VR. So you can be here in Martin Place in Sydney, but visiting a farm through the wonders of technology. We've got not only virtual reality, but augmented reality as well, they're telling me. So we've got some fantastic content you can see. You can sit in a header while it's harvesting a crop. You can get involved in milking cows, all via the wonders of technology and innovation, which is what, of course, National Ag Day this year is all about. I am absolutely excited to interview our next guest today. As someone who works with young people in agriculture day to day, I'm always thrilled to chat to first generation farmers. And first generation farmers are those who haven't inherited a farm. They have gone out and found themselves a way to either acquire land or start their own farm. So I'm joined today by Adam and Jacynta Coffey. Adam and Jacynta, are you there?
Morning. How you going?
Morning.
Morning. How you going?
Really well. Thank you so much for joining us. Could you start by telling the viewers and people here in Sydney and in Melbourne, where are you calling us from today?
Sure, well, you can go.
Yeah, so we are situated near Miriamvale, which is on the central Queensland coast. So we're sort of halfway between Rockhampton and Bundaberg.
What a beautiful part of the world. Could you tell us about just what your farm is, what it involves, what are you growing?
Yeah, so we've got it's 2,500 hectares up here, grass-fed beef cattle enterprise. Yeah, what else can I tell you? We've got plenty going on, but I'm guessing you've got a few more questions for us.
I've got many questions for you. Talk to us about capacity on the farm. How many head of cattle are you running?
Gotcha, yeah. Look, we're running sort of around that sort of 500 breeding cows, and we run them in one mob. So a critical part of our operation is we're running a time-controlled rotational grazing enterprise. So we're trying to get maximum impact on our pasture and then maximise our periods of rest to allow that to recover.
I'm really excited to ask you a bit more about that in a moment. But first I want to know, you are first generation farmers, and I know dealing with young people myself, it can be quite a barrier getting into farming as a first generation if you don't have a farm to inherit. How did you guys go about becoming farmers?
Do you want the short story, the short version? Look, it was a long path, and I was headed off doing a chef's apprenticeship, and Jack did a commerce degree, so she was in accounting. Originally from Tasmania, but I guess we've always had a fascination with the land, and we travelled all around Australia working and managing on other people's properties essentially, and particularly in that corporate agricultural management, and look through I guess hard work and trying to situate ourselves where we could take advantage of opportunity. We've found our way into our own block, and that included lease scenarios, adjusting a lot of cattle over the years, buying and selling and trading cattle on other people's land before we had our own. So look, it's been a hard road, but there's still plenty of opportunity out there if you're sort of prepared to grab it.
Yeah, and I can imagine that it involves quite a lot of learning, training courses, listening to other people. Just what did you do to gain the knowledge and the skills to eventually gain the confidence to start your own enterprise?
Well, I think we've been working across, we've worked almost in every state and territory across the country. So a lot of it's a lot of hands-on. Adam went to Marcus Oldham University, so he went and did his agribusiness, work over there. So that's given him a really good grounding. And then the rest of it is you really learn as you go. And the biggest thing in this industry is that people are so willing to help you out. So you've really just got to ask and be willing to put in the work to see it from their perspective, and then, really gain as much knowledge as you can from everybody on the way.
Yeah, Jack touched on, working in different environments. You can't beat, now even where we are, we pull in all that experience, I guess, from when we're in the Kimberley or the NT or Southwest WA or New South Wales, and it's you can't sort of beat that broad knowledge to help you achieve what you want to achieve in your business.
As two people who are, first generation farmers, sort of new-ish to agriculture, how did you know that farming was for you?
Good question.
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's vital that it's seen as an option across schools, because, coming from, like, I grew up in Tassie, and agriculture wasn't really put forward as a career option for somebody who was driven and that sort of thing, So I went and did accounting because that was sort of seen to be a legitimate career, I guess. And yet agriculture has so many facets to it, in terms of technology. You've got pasture and biology and animal nutrition, and there are just so many areas that you could go into. So it was funny growing up. I knew there was something I wanted to do that would involve animals and using my brain and mathematics and tech and all that sort of thing, but I didn't know what it was. It turns out ag just really ticks all the boxes.
And also, we sort of reckon that if most people knew how we live our lives, and don't get me wrong, there's some hard work, but we step out of the door in the morning and we're at work, and it's a beautiful place to work, and it's a good way of life. So look, everyone's different, but I think if more people understood what we do on a daily basis, I think they'd be all over it.
Mm. And on that note, what does a day in the life look like? What are you up to day to day on the farm?
Well, I guess we're, as I say, we run a time-controlled grazing enterprise, so we've got one big mob of cattle, and we spend a lot of time ensuring they have all the, the water and the feed and nutrition in front of them that they need. We as I say, we spend a lot of time getting around doing that. What else?
Well, we do a lot of measuring. So there's obviously we measure basic things like rainfall and things like that, but we also run grazing charts. So we make sure that we know how much feed is ahead of the cattle for the next few months, or up to 12 months. We have a look at the feed that's left behind when they leave the paddock. So all of that's monitored and measured, and we track it till we make sure that we might have 500 breeder cows on. However, if we know that we're running low on rainfall, or we look forward to what's happening in the next few months, then we can we're always planning and adapting to the situation. So we'll know whether we need to destock, whether we can have opportunity to bring more cattle on if we've got extra grass, that sort of thing. So it's extremely varied, and it's a rolling plan daily.
Yeah, and I guess as much as we've got our hands on sort of activities, fencing, as I say, animal husbandry, etc. Our business is really evolving into it. There's so much data capture now, and that obviously, number one, it allows us to measure the performance of our business in real time, but then also track the performance of our business and the health and the yields of our environment over time to ensure that we are sort of tracking in the right direction.
Mm. Adam, you talked about time-controlled rotational grazing. I'm sure that might sound like jargon to a lot of people who might be listening to this. Could you go in a bit more detail about what that is, what it involves, and why farmers would select to use that system?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's pretty simple. As I touched on earlier, it's about running a lot of cattle in one mob. And there are a lot of operators out there doing that sort of practice now. And really, it's just trying to mimic, if you go back to the big migratory herds sort of in North America, and that people have started to recognise that there's a lot of benefit in the way that they used to move around. So they'd run in a tight herd due to sort of predatory pressures. They hit the ground, they hit their pasture hard. But also, and probably the most important part, is putting the nutrients, so the urine and the dung, back onto the land in a concentrated fashion. And then they're gone, and they might not come back there for 6 or 12 months. Or in our case, we basically match those rotations to the stage of pasture growth. So we're a summer active growing season. We get most of our rainfall across summer up here, and we're a tropical pasture environment. So that's when we get all our growth. So when the grass is growing fast, we have fast rotations, and when it slows up, we basically can allow those cattle to stay where they are for longer, and then we have longer periods of rest. And all we're trying to do is get, by doing that, we're improving our pasture health. So we're increasing nutrient return, we're increasing the moisture is a big one. So any drop of rainfall that we get, we want it to be in our soil profile. And that's all about building resilience in an environment where sometimes rainfall can be sporadic. So we need to ensure that we're capturing every drop we get, in a bid to basically increase our soil biology, improve our soil biology over time. And yeah, but it all goes hand in hand with production, improving our environment. It's a pretty cool place to be.
And it sounds like it's a pretty intensive system. Like, how often are you moving the mob?
Oh, it depends again on the size of the mob and the size of the paddock, the time of the year, and like Adam said, how, you know, at what rate the pasture's growing. So it is there's the science behind it, but then there's also a lot of feeling. You basically go out in the paddock and you really need to have a good grasp on what's going on, and you know, how your cattle are doing and what the weather's doing, all that sort of thing. So generally speaking, it's probably weekly that we would, you know, shift the cattle. And it's very, very simple now. They know their job. So you basically head out there, and when they know it's time to move, they all just mosey through the gate and onto the next paddock. It's quite low stress, and it's just a bit of fun, really. It's all very, very simple.
It sounds really interesting. I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with farming would be quite surprised to know that animals really do learn how to work within the system and actually quite enjoy it from a welfare point of view.
Yeah, they certainly do, and they get a little bit cheeky sometimes. You've got to make sure that you have your animal management, you know, down pat, really, because you can get the ones who go, oh, hang on a second, I want to go to my next paddock, and you know, they're already looking for the grass is always greener, you know. So you know, there's a bit of that in terms of animal management and ensuring that they're not trying to move too quickly.
I want to ask you about, you know, your first generation farmers. You're coming in learning a lot, but you've also got some external experiences. Your childhoods, your upbringings were quite different to people maybe who've been raised in generational farming. Do you think that has helped or hindered you in becoming farmers yourselves?
Oh, I think a little bit of both. Obviously, there's the equity challenge, capital challenges, and trying to pull this stuff on as a first generation farmer. It's, you know, we borrow a lot of money, but also I guess you don't come in with any prior context. So I think there is strength in that. We can sort of, again, I mentioned earlier how we sort of moved around this great country of ours, and you gain a lot of varied experience. So when we tackle a problem, we're not sort of looking at what has been done before, although at the same time there's a lot of value in that. So it's a mix of both, isn't it? Right? You come with fresh ideas, and then you've really got to respect what has been before you and understand why things have been done, and then sort of tackle it in the best way you see fit.
Mm. And what does innovation look like or mean to you guys?
I guess
it's fun.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's a lot of fun. I think one of the positives in that sort of first gen, you know, thing is to have, we can try new things, and it's just on us. So we're not, you know, we don't have the family farm to think of, and the multi-generational, any of that kind of pressure that might have been there. However, having said that, we know a lot of multi-generational farmers who are the most innovative out there. So those families are the ones that we really look to and inspire us. So yeah, we're always trialing new things, and some things work and some things don't. So, you know, we've got our water tank monitors for the water level. You know, we've got solar pumps on all our bores. That's probably on the water side of it. On the fencing side of it, we run single hot wire electric fencing for a lot of, it's an easy and cheaper way to divide up our paddocks when we're doing rotations. So we have a remote monitored fencing unit for that. So it's mobile phone based, and we can turn that fence on and off when we're going out there to shift cattle. Pasture side of things, probably.
Yeah, so the pasture side of things is getting more and more interesting all the time, and we're using satellite monitoring technology to monitor our ground cover, feed quality, dry matter, the kilos that we have in the paddock, and even down to the level where we can tell what's photosynthesizing, so actively growing or not. That's becoming a really big part of our business, and I think like across all of these the innovation's becoming the best part about innovation is becoming remote censored. So it's allowing us to basically, you know, like have a dashboard on your business, and you can plug and play, and you can monitor what you need to over time. And that's becoming pretty important now with this sort of focus on climate and emissions. And look, we've got projects underway here in partnership with government and our industry bodies that are measuring sort of pasture growth versus timber growth, for instance, in some of our native remnant country. So then we're measuring biodiversity scores in there. We're measuring carbon sequestration in the timber versus carbon sequestration in the soil, all these sort of things. So yeah, look, there's innovation and tech sort of flying at us at every which way. And I guess you've just got to pick what's applicable to your situation. But a lot of it can be very handy. It's about data capture at this stage, and then we've just got to make sure we use it in the right way and that it's useful.
That's absolutely wonderful. Adam, Jacynta, I think so inspirational to speak to first generation farmers. Well done. It sounds like you're doing an amazing job. We really appreciate you tuning in to AgDay today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope you got a few people dropping in there for a good steak today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.